Hi, Math 85 students. Dr. McGathy's here, and we are working on section 5.3, decimals and fractions. So in the last section, we defined what decimals were, and we were able to do computations, adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing with decimals. So today we're going to work on converting from fraction form to decimal form, because these are just two different ways to write numbers. We'll compare decimals and fractions together, and then let's evaluate expressions using order of operations that have decimals in them. And also we'll work on computing circumference and area of a circle if we're given the radius. So let's first convert between fractions and decimals. So our method will be the method of long division, where we append zeros after the decimal point in the dividend. So here's what I mean by that. If we look at the fraction 3/4, this is like 3 over 4 or 3 divided by 4. The numerator, this is like the dividend, is what goes inside of that fraction or the long division bar. And the denominator here is the divisor. So we'll take the number 3, which is the dividend, divide by 4, which is the divisor. All right, so we'll do long division. 4 goes into 3 how many times? Well, it doesn't, so I'll say 0 times. And now let me add on a decimal point and append a 0 to the end of the dividend number. So 3 is the same as 3.0 or 3 and 0 tenths. And then we know from the last section that when you divide, you just line the decimal point up right above where it was in the dividend. All right, so now we do 4 goes into 30 how many times? That'll be 7 times. 7 times 4 is 28. And then let's subtract. And I'd like to bring down my next digit. Since I don't have a next digit, I'll append another 0 onto the end of the number. And 4 goes into 20 5 times. 5 times 4 is 20. And now I get remainder 0, so I can stop. So 3/4 is the same as 0.75 or 75 hundredths. This should sort of make sense because 3/4 is 75 cents, and cent stands for hundredths. So yeah, 3/4 is 0.75 or 75 hundredths. All right, let's do the next one. -7 over 2. Let's convert that to decimal form. So I'll say 7 divided by 2. And then at the very end, we'll put the negative sign back in the number. So 2 goes into 7 3 times. 3 times 2 is 6. Subtract, I get remainder 1. Now I could just say remainder 1 or 3.5. But since I'm trying to convert to a decimal, I'll append a 0.0 to the end of the dividend. And then I'm going to keep going here. So 2 goes into 10. Let me put the decimal point right above the dividend. 2 goes into 10 5 times. 5 times 2 is 10. Once I get remainder 0, I can stop. Okay, so -7/2 is -3.5 or 3 and 5 tenths. All right, so in both of these examples, the decimal actually terminated. We're going to see an example here where the decimal keeps going or repeats. So to convert 4 over 3 or 4/3, take 4, divide by 3. Okay, 3 goes into 4 once. 1 times 3 is 3. Subtract, I get 1. Try to bring down the next digit so I can add a 0.0. Line up the decimal point right above the dividend. Okay, so now I can bring down that next digit. 3 goes into 10 3 times, right? 3 times 3 is 9. Subtract, I get 1, which is what I got last time. And I could append another 0, bring that down. Wait a second, 3 goes into 10. I just did that in this last step. 3 goes into 10 3 times. 3 times 3 is 9. Subtract, you get 1. And if I were to bring down the next 0, you see how this process is just going to repeat forever and ever and ever? I'm just going to get infinitely many 3's here after the decimal point. So this is a repeating decimal 4/3 is the same as 1.3 repeating. All right, so now this gives us a method for working with fractions and decimals together. Let's now decide how will we work with these numbers if we're trying to compare them together. So if I wanted to order these numbers, 0.24, 24 hundredths, 3/5, 2/5, 1/4. I want to order all these numbers, compare them with each other. So if I have one decimal, maybe what I should do is rewrite each one of these fractions as a decimal. So let's write 3/5 here. 3 divided by 5. 5 goes into 3. It doesn't, so it's 0 times. So append a 0.0. 5 goes into 30 6 times. 6 times 5 is 30. We get remainder 0. So there's the fraction 3/5. Let's look at the fraction 2/5. That's 2 divided by 5. 5 goes into 2 0 times. So I'll add a 0.0 to the dividend and retry. 5 goes into 20 4 times. 4 times 5 is 20. Subtract, you get remainder 0. So 2/5 is the same as 0.4. Now how about 1/4? This one I think we've done before. We've done 3/4. 3/4 is 75 cents. 1/4 should be 25 cents. So let's see how that looks. 1 divided by 4. 4 goes into 1. It doesn't, so 0 times. So I'll append a 0.0 to the end of my number. 4 goes into 10 twice. 2 times 4 is 8. Subtract. Append another 0 and bring it down. 4 goes into 20 5 times. 5 times 4 is 20. Subtract, and we get 0. So 1/4 is 25 cents. Okay, so really, this is the same as ordering the decimals. The first one I have is 0.24, and then 3/5 is the same as 0.6. 2/5 is the same as 0.4, and 1/4 is the same as 0.25. And let's remember, when we're ordering decimals, it's important to have the same number of places. So here's 2 places. I'll put a 0 on the end to make that 2 places. Put a 0 on the end of this number to make that 2 places. And now let's go ahead and order them. 24 hundredths is less than 25 hundredths, which is less than 40 hundredths, or 0.4, which is less than 60 hundredths, or 6/10, 0.6. Okay, and now if you wanted to, like this is done, I've ordered these numbers. If you wanted to put those back into fraction form, you can. So 24 hundredths is less than, this was 1/4, which is less than 0.4 was my 2/5, which is less than 0.6 was my 3/5. All right, anyways, the procedure is, if you're comparing fractions and decimals, just write everything as a decimal and do your arithmetic there. Also, your calculator can help you with this. We don't have to do all these divisions by hand. You can use your calculator to do, 2 divided by 5 to get 0.4.